Chitananda here. I'm in beautiful Laguna Beach, California, about an hour south of Los Angeles and about an hour north of San Diego. Look at this gorgeous view. And we're going to see some tide pools today. A common theme on my channel is looking closer when you're in nature, seeing things you would not have noticed before. And here's yet another opportunity for that. So see how all this stone here is on a slant? It kind of cuts up like this out of the ground. Well, that happened in a very particular process. And look at all the layers. You can see 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers. That looks like the way that the earth goes through different weather patterns. Different minerals collect year after year, hundreds or thousands of years after hundreds of thousands of years. You get these different, they're called strata, layers of the earth. So what happened is this all used to be flat. And then eventually, because of tectonic plate shift, all of it went up like that. And there you have it. So if you look really close, you'll notice animals here that you would not have noticed before. They are so tiny. They might look like bird droppings. They might look like extensions of the rock, but they're not. All of these little guys here, bunch of really tiny snails. Very tiny. There they are. So those are little sea creatures in their shells. And we have another really tiny animal. You might think it's part of the rock. These are barnacles. Most of these are dead. You can tell because you can see the little hole at the top. That lets me know that that's a skeleton left over. And it's low tide right now. The water's down. Some of these still might be alive, and they trap water between their shell and the rock to survive when the ocean water is low. But look how many. There's probably trillions here. And I don't know if you can see it, but they just cover the stone for miles. The same ones will get actually much larger than that. So we have a different kind of barnacle here. It's called a gooseneck barnacle. And that is these white ones you see here with the pointy tops. And mixed in are mussels. The blue ones are mussels. And they're all growing in the same area together. And then you can see them underwater here. So this was underwater earlier today. And when the ocean went down, it left this pool here. That's why we call them tide pools. And so those same creatures have to know how to survive when the water goes away. And that's what these are doing here. And here's another unique animal called a limpet. And this is a mollusk, meaning it has a soft body and it's under its own shell. And here's a couple more. I didn't notice them at first, but here we have some more right here. And a lot of these grooves in the rocks, there's actually a hollowed out part of the rock. Those are actually created by these animals over maybe thousands of years. The same animal will come back to these holes in the rock and they'll kind of burrow themselves in there. And over time it erodes the rock. So you can see there's a lot of these holes in the rock. And that's created by some of these sea creatures. I'm not sure which ones, but perhaps the limpet. And now we have many types of algae and seagrasses. I believe they're all part of the algae family. And then you also have kelp. And you can see even way out there in the water, all that brown stuff is kelp. It roots itself at the bottom of the ocean. And then it sends up shoots, just like a tree sends up a trunk. It sends up shoots of plant to the top where it photosynthesizes and feeds the whole plant. Wow, this is something I don't see every day. So what I believe we're looking at, this is all made of sand. And there are little worms, worm-like creatures that create these formations with the sand, and they burrow through and they move through this creation they've created. There's probably hundreds of thousands of them or more, and you can see it. It goes all the way along the rock here, goes all the way there. So it's probably throughout these tide pools, this little creature is building their own little home out of sand. Here's some more. We also have little crabs walking on top of their structure.
Look at this thing. It's huge.
Oh, beefy.
And we have a little snail here hanging out. Lots of snails. That's the kelp I was telling you about up close. There's a snail right there. Actually, I believe that's a hermit crab who stole a snail's shell. There's another hermit crab who stole a snail's shell. And now that I look closer, that's not a snail there. That is also a hermit crab who stole the shell of a snail. So here we have a bunch of baby sea anemones. They're covering themselves in shells. The little shell particles stick to them. And here we have a big sea anemone. It's low tide, so normally these guys like to splay out like a flower under the water. But it's closing up, it's holding and containing the water it has. The tides will come back up again. Until then, he's going to be conservative with his water. And you can see the same camouflaging with the shells. That's what sea anemones do, whether they're large or small. Here's another one. And sometimes you'll find things coming out of their mouths. And if you pull, what is that? That is the tentacle of a lobster, I do believe. Pretty sure that's from a lobster. These are meat-eating animals. And I have seen entire lobster tails coming out of their mouths. Oh, here we have it again. One lobster tentacle. Oh. It's an entire lobster coming out of that guy. They eat him whole, apparently. I ruined his dinner a little bit, so I'll give that back in case he wants to take it back in. But he also just lost a lot of water. Generally, you don't want to do this because you saw the water he lost. He could potentially dry up in the sun now, but I still believe he's fine. Within the next several hours, the tides will come back again, and he'll be fine. And look at this beautiful valley here in the rock. One giant tide pool here. All kinds of life. Oh, I see a fairly large crab. I see a little fish there. But yeah, look at this rock. They could have filmed like a Star Wars episode here. It's very small, but if you make the spaceship small enough, it would look like real spaceships on a foreign land. It does feel very alien in a way when you zoom in on nature like this.